With EX10 being only a month and a half away, there have already been some cards spoiled for this set. But today's topic is going to be a little different because I'll be exploring the history of where this card started and where Bandai could go with it moving forward. As always, if you enjoy these types of videos, do consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that notification bell for more future content. Apocalymon made its official debut into the Digimon card game as a secret rare in BT15. The release of BT15 being February 16th, 2024, a full 3 years after the initial release of the game. There's just one problem though. February 16th was the official English release, which meant it was actually released earlier in Japan, September 2023. I can honestly recall videos from fellow content creator East, who mentioned players gathering outside of their shops, eagerly awaiting the new set, and the lines were long. Players wanted this card. But what did it exactly do? Apocalymon was one of the first Digimon that when this Digimon would be played, by placing up to 3 Dark Masters trait cards with different names from your battle area or trash under it, you reduce the play cost by 4 for each one. In doing so, this meant that you could tuck any 3 of Metal Seedramon, Machinedramon, Puppetmon, or Piedmon under this Digimon, and it would cost you only 3 memory. A white Digimon with 15,000 DP. Okay. What's the big deal? End of your turn, once per turn by placing 1 level 6 or lower card from your trash. As this Digimon's Digivolution cards, you activate one of the on-play effects of that card as the effect of this Digimon. Then you trash the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck for each of this Digimon's level 6 Digivolution cards. And while that's fine and dandy, the ultimate issue became that players were tucking cards, like Magnedramon to give all of their opponent's Digimon security tech -1 until the end of their turn. Or maybe even tucking cards like Belphymon's Sleep Mode in order to tuck Rage Mode into the stack to make it immune through your opponent's turn. But the kicker with this particular Digimon is that with the 3 Dark Masters, and then Belphymon's Sleep Mode and Rage Mode, this meant that in total, Apocalymmon's end of turn effect was going to trash the top 10 cards off the opponent's deck. And remember, with multiple Apocalymons out, it was only going to get worse. Japan would ultimately be in one of the harshest metas in the history of the Digimon card game, because at that point, whoever played Apocalymon first was more than likely helping their opponent get to their endgame strategy of playing multiple Apocalymons in one turn. But now Bandai had another issue. Because this deck was the only deck being played during BT15, they could not do anything about this card because it hadn't even been released globally yet. In the East, the Digimon card game was hitting the harsh reality of global releases because Apocalymon needed to go, but it wasn't even out yet in the West. And when it did come in the West, it was around enough for just one event before it was limited to one. That's right, Bandai limited a secret rare almost a year and a half ago, an unprecedented restriction that hadn't happened in the game before. Even to this day, no other secret rare has gotten a restriction, and only recently did another card get outright banned. But now with only 1 copy of Apocalymon, the next question I have is, where does the archetype go? I've already theory crafted Apocalymon twice on this channel, with my second take being god-awfully close to some of the effects. But now with Apocalymon making a return, what are some elements we could see Bandai incorporating from recent sets? Looking at game design since BT15, a lot of the card game has honestly changed. Most notably, the flexibility of Digivolution from different colored Digimon. While BT18 did offer a mainline color for hybrids to Digivolve off of, BT21 would offer one of the first sets in which cards not only Digivolved off of a tribal line, but a shared trait. Notably, even starter decks 20 and 21 did this, and was the first time that Digimon could pretty much Digivolve off anything. Which means while we do have a shared hero trait, could Bandai retune certain elements of antagonists across the Digimon series into a villain archetype? Many players, myself included, speculated this, but upon reveal of some of the cards, this has already been shot down to encompass the entire set. However, with Apocalymon utilizing many mainline adventure villains, could we see that villain Dark Masters or even adventure trait with Apocalymon? I'd honestly be curious to see if this is ultimately the direction Bandai does go, because it would mean you could cross other adventure related cards, even the protagonist ones, with a touch of villainy. But ultimately, where I see Apocalymon landing in the next printing will have all of its related Digimon have special Digivolution conditions in which they Digivolve from a Digimon with Dark Masters in its text. Yep. Ultimately, this is one of the few ways I see Bandai combining the archetype into one cohesive line without having to on-play everything. I mean, have you seen the format today? There's not much control going on, and everything either has immunity, battle protection, can't be DP reduced, can't be bounced, and more. Because let's be real, Can we believe it's okay to still play a level 5 Digimon card from BT15 to search for those level 6 and beyond Digimon? That's a lot of memory to hand over to your opponent. And while a special Digivolution text could be one approach, there's one archetype that I've been thinking about that already gives me an inkling of how they'll handle Apocalymon moving forward. In EX9, Bandai so kindly introduced us to Negamon, a Digimon that has a breeding effect that can reduce the playcost of your Digimon with Negamon in their text by 2. And then for each Negamon in the trash or your Digimon's Digivolution cards, you further reduce it by 1 memory. And while yes, Apocalymon is a level 7 Digimon, could we get a levelless Apocalymon in a Polyhedron mode that is a Digimon that operates solely in the rays like, say, Mother Eater? Functionally serving as a way to reduce playcosts or granting specific abilities to your Digimon before playing out Apocalymon or even Apocalymon creepy mode. Aside from looking at how Apocalymon could be reintroduced into the Digimon card game, decks currently need 3 things to be considered meta. The first 2 things are speed and consistency. How fast can you get to your win condition? Decks like Royal Knights can theoretically get to their win condition by turn 3 or 4, depending on what's drawn and what kind of traps are set. Megidramon, because of the use of Gravity Crush, can sometimes take games by turn 2. But with Apocalymon, my opinion right now is that if the deck is too slow, you won't be able to get your win condition off, and it's another archetype that's just dead in the water. Number 3. Decks need a definitive win condition to be good. This is why some decks excel very well with their game clock or have a clear goal. And although linear in thought, Greymon decks for the most part are aggro. DNA Omni decks are all about playing an Agu or Gabu in the back before dropping Nokia Shiramine. EX9 is interesting in that the entire set is dedicated to the DM trait, and although a lot of the players aren't necessarily interested in this set, it does give insight on Bandai trying out new ways to lump cards together while also creating creative effects that can interact with one another. And although Apocalymon started out as a deck that targeted players' decks, I ultimately feel like it'll have similar win conditions to either Ogudamon for trashing security, Beelzemon X for trashing security based on the number of cards in the trash, or even cards like Ultimate Chaosmon, in which it's trying to load as many sources under itself. At this time, I'm leaning on the fact that Apocalymon will surely be an archetypal deck that looks at cards with Dark Masters or Apocalymon in their text. Which means naturally I think the most fitting keyword for this deck would be Assemble, considering Apocalymon was able to use several villains' abilities when facing off against the Digidestined in the final episode. What are your thoughts on where Apocalymon and the Dark Masters could go? Do you agree or disagree with elements of today's discussion video? And lastly, do you want Apocalymon to maintain its status as a deck that wins by an alternative condition of decking your opponent out, or do you think it will copy another archetype's homework and look at trashing security based on a number of sources that it has with the Dark Masters and its traits? Let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you on more Digimon content this week. This is DIGI-PANDA, logging out.